Your caravan looks very cozy, Linda.
Yeah, it is. I had a big cleanup yesterday because it was just a nightmare. So yeah, we had a big cleanup. I'm down in Bendigo in Victoria at the moment doing some gardening. I'm here for a month.
That
Awesome.
was a quick trip. You were in South Australia last week, weren't you?
Yeah, so I came down in the weekend. Well, Thursday I started my trip. I got here on Friday,
Hmm.
and yeah, been out playing lawn bowls and went to a documentary last night on homeless women over 50. Do you know that there's over 400,000 homeless women over 50 traveling around Australia or home like homeless through domestic violence or whatever. It was such an interesting documentary. It was down at the local art
Wow.
gallery where my friend who I've come down to do the gardening for, she works there. It was just amazing, incredible.
But do you class
Wow.
yourself as homeless?
I class myself as houseless.
Yeah.
But
So
one
were
of the
they?
things, sorry.
So are these women in a similar situation, but because of domestic violence or circumstances, it wasn't really their choice?
Yeah, most of them it wasn't their choice. For me, it was a choice, but it has had consequences. And one of the women was talking about how she couch surfed, which is basically what I'm doing in Adelaide. But then people want their house back.
Mm.
So, um, but my big thing is that I need a shower and I need water, and I can't. I've got a shower in my van, but if I don't have water, I can't use the shower. Um, so I need to find someone to lease me some land that's got a shed with a shower and toilet on it, or something. I don't know, but even that's really expensive. Caravan parks can cost me between $200 and $300 a week, so I don't want to
Yeah,
be doing that either.
couldn't you go to a local gym and just buy a 1 day pass?
Well, I need to look into that actually because Port Lincoln, which is where I stopped when my gearbox was playing up again, so that was in end of May, beginning of June. The local community centre, you went in there and $2 for a shower. So I need to check that out. Thank you for reminding me about that, Gary.
Yeah, yeah, because
Yep,
I mean, there were times when I didn't have any place to shower, and
yep,
I would just, well, always at the beaches, I would find showers,
right.
but they were never warm water showers.
No, of
But
course.
I could go to a gym and pay like, $10 to for a 1 day pass and then just go in and do all the things I need to do.
Right. Yep. No, well, I will look into that because, yeah, $2 they were charging in Port Lincoln, so that's on the Eyre Peninsula, in South Australia. And I thought that was reasonable. So it would cost me $2 a day for 5 days. And then I just probably wouldn't, I'd just have a douche over the weekend. And then, because with the gardening, of course, if I'm going to be professional, I've got to not be stinky.
Oh, live a little, Linda.
I think my best, when I was traveling, my best um, days of not having a shower was like 7 or 8 days or something, and it was awful. even even Gracie, my cat, was going, "Mum, it's about time you had a shower."
You can just tell her it's my natural perfume. It's my fragrance.
My fragrance, yeah, exactly.
Okay, where are we, V?
We're at number three. This is, and I think I should just do more recapping of where we're starting from. So we're in the chapter 4 about the illusions of the ego, and
Yep.
part 1 being the right teaching and right learning. And we're up to number
I want to
3.
share with you guys something. I forget what it was. I was either thinking in my head or I was out and about. I can't remember, but I do remember facing this situation where I recalled like the last lesson from the Course in Miracles, and it was so helpful to me in that moment. And I kept thinking, what a good use of our time we have on Tuesday nights, because to continue to study this information, I think is invaluable, and to continue to, apply it to our lives, I think is super important not to go to sleep. Because if we weren't doing this, we would have a tendency to just go to sleep, because I would never break out the Course in Miracles and read it on my own. It's just too much of a head flush. So doing it in a group is really really helpful.
I agree.
I just want to acknowledge us for continuing this, because I think it's really good for us.
Had our backs. Who's going to read number 3?
I'll read.
Oh, you read, Gary.
Oh, okay.
Don't fight over
Here we
it.
go. Spirit need not be taught, but the ego must be. Learning is ultimately perceived as frightening because it leads to the relinquishment, not the destruction of the ego, to the light of spirit. This is a change the ego must fear because it does not share my charity. My lesson was like yours, and because I learned it, I can teach it. I will never attack your ego, but I'm trying to teach you how its thought system arose. When I remind you of your true creation, your ego cannot but respond with fear.
I just had an aha moment while you were reading that, Gary, about this.
I think that's pretty clear. I don't know if we have to decide.
No, but going through, like, often we're reading something and there's like all this spiel on forgiveness is not required once you've reached atonement, but in our process we still need to forgive, and the learning that we need the ego to do is something that it's a process that we need to go through. Who knows when we're going to individually reach the atonement, but I guess it's recognizing the fact that it's great to be able to forgive and to get to different levels of forgiveness. And same with the learning. It's great to do the learning and to get different levels and realize that we're moving along quite nicely. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Who's claiming 4?
Off you go, Linda.
Okay. Teaching and learning are your greatest strengths now because they enable you to change your mind and help others to change theirs. Oh, I like that. Refusing to change your mind will not prove that the separation has not occurred. That's a lot of negatives in there, isn't it? The dreamer who doubts the reality of his dream while he is still dreaming is not really healing his split mind. You dream of a separated ego and believe in a world that rests upon it. This is very real to you. You cannot undo it by not changing your mind about it. If you are willing to renounce the role of guardian of your thought system and open it to me, I will correct it very gently and lead you back to God. Oh, I like that. I really like that.
Yeah, me too.
The guardian of your thought system.
That is so cool. You know, when you get really caught up in whatever's happening at the time, and it really is quite nice just to sit back and go, you know what, there's really nothing that I can do about it. I'm not thinking clearly. I'm not sure which way is forward. I just need to give it up. And it works every single time. So that's just a perfect paragraph.
I love that.
Well, in alignment with this, I was struggling with my meditation about 3 or 4 days ago. And I was just like, oh my God, I've been doing this for so long, and I just feel like I'm still a newborn child. And so in my ending prayer after meditation, I said, I said, grant me the grace to meditate. Like, just grant me the grace to meditate. And the next morning I started to sit, because I like sitting. It's just, the task of meditation in my particular yogic discipline is quite difficult. Always was from the very beginning till today, some 50 years later. But I remember having this breakthrough in the meditation, like the next day after I asked, like, show me the grace to meditate. I had this breakthrough, and it's like, wow. So if I, which I did, handed it over, it says, I will correct it very gently and lead you back to God. And I felt like that's exactly what happened. There's a little window that opened as soon as I asked, and that was what I wanted. As soon as I asked for help, it's like it happened the very next day in meditation, which I thought was really awesome. I think we don't ask enough for what we need.
Well, I think too, just going back to when you were saying about, when we were talking about going to a community place to have a shower and what have you, I've been trying to think how I can get back out on my own, stay in my van, find a place to stay, but with a shower. And so you've provided that for me. It's a question I have been asking. So it's so that's what I'm getting out of these last two paragraphs, or this one in particular, is that by just letting it go, or just not even asking the right people, but just putting it out there, something will always come back for you. And I think that's fantastic. And again, thank you.
So a question to you guys, when you get really stuck, what's your go-to strategy? I mean, do you sit back and worry? Do you future project with fear, or do you immediately ask for the obstacle to be removed? Like, what's the first thing you guys do? Because the first thing I do is try to figure it out with my head, like I'm the guardian of my thought system. What do you guys do?
I think our ego first it kicks in and says, we've got to figure this out. But I think as time has gone on, I don't allow myself to spend too much time on it anymore, because I know that there's a process that's out of my hands. So it's that learning as you go along, just to know that you need to at least think about it, because that's where all the questions come from, so that you can release it, put it in the hands of God or source or the universe, to get that come back. Because I mean, that's a very rich environment, which we don't ask for that help. And
I know.
When you ask for it, it comes to you, whether it's a disappointing way or not. But in the future, you realize that it wasn't disappointing. That was just the way that it needed to be at the time for whatever was going on in your life at the time. It's like people with regrets, you ask them, well, why do you have regrets? Oh, well, I shouldn't have done that because now it's doing this and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, yeah, but why did you make that decision at the time? What was going on in your life for you to make that decision? Because it was a mature one, and it suited you at the time for your life, whatever was going on in your life. So it's really interesting, because it gets a whole thought process going. And I've been through it myself. I don't have regrets anymore, because I know that even though I think now that was a stupid thing to do back then, it was the reason I did it was because of what was going on in my life at the time.
Yeah.
So now it's just giving it up, saying, well, I'm thinking about this. These are the answers that I need. I have to give it up and just get on with something else. It's too anxious, too fear creating otherwise.
Yeah. How about you, V? What do you do?
Well, it's interesting that I thought I had a relationship issue. Mentioned this to Joe, and I ruminated on it. Was it Monday night? Yeah. And I thought, I was thinking of all the consequences of what might happen. And this is the opposite of what the course is teaching. So to that extent, it's just like monkey mind going on. I had hardly any sleep. And I addressed it. With Murray yesterday, and there's no issue. It's just, just open conversation, and it's gone. So all that lack of sleep, a complete waste of energy. So I practicing, and so this is a really good lesson for me to practice more of the just surrendering, asking for an outcome, but not being attached to how it shows up.
Yeah.
And letting it go. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Our
Yeah.
little monkey minds can't sort these things out. We just make more problems with it.
Okay, Joey, if you cut your hair, I'm going to be very upset with you.
It's there. It's hidden.
Hi, Joe.
It's chilly. I've been outside all day. Hola.
Okay. Don't make me
Yeah.
scared and disappointed all at the same time.
There you go.
Okay, now I'm happy.
How are you,
Doesn't
Joe?
it?
We're on just reading number 4.
Number
Why don't we
4.
have Joey read number 5 for us?
Okay.
Chapter 4, number 5.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Every good teacher hopes to give his students so much of his own learning that they will one day no longer need him. This is the one true goal of the teacher. It is impossible to convince the ego of this because it goes against all of its own laws. But remember that laws are set up to protect the continuity of the system in which the lawmaker believes. It is natural for the ego to go try to protect itself once you have made it, but it is not natural for you to want to obey its laws unless you believe them. The ego cannot make this choice because of the nature of its origin. You can, because the nature of yours.
This is kind of like the parent-child relationship as well, isn't it? Like the parent doesn't always want to let go because they think they still need to keep protecting their child forever. But at some stage, you just need to let the child go and make their own decisions, and you've done your job.
Yeah. Do we need to cipher this any? Or do you guys get it?
No, it's fine.
Is everybody clear on it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh.
Fee, have you read yet?
I haven't, but I'll read number 7 because it goes across the page. So if someone else wants to do number 6.
Okay.
Nice
I'll
way
go
there.
for it. Egos can clash in any situation, but spirit cannot clash at all. If you perceive a teacher as merely a larger ego, you will be afraid, because to enlarge an ego would be to increase anxiety about separation. I will teach with you and live with you if you will think with me. But my goal will always be to absolve you finally from the need for a teacher. This is the opposite of the ego-oriented teacher's goal. He is concerned with the effect of his ego on other egos and therefore interrupts their interaction as means of ego preservation. I would not be able to devote myself to teaching if I believed this. And you will not be a devoted teacher as long as you believe it. I am constantly being perceived as a teacher, either to be exalted or rejected. but I do not accept either perception for myself. It's actually quite beautiful.
Mm.
It's kind of spoken in first person, which is kind of rare to have a whole paragraph in first person.
Mm.
Do we have any questions on this?
It kind of feels like how this course is all written. It's like this is the way it is, but it's up to you to do your own discerning and your own take your own action from it, and it's all good.
Yeah.
Like go on to
Anybody
number
have any
7. Okay.
Yeah, who'd like to do number 7?
I'll do number 7 because it goes across the page.
Okay.
Your worth is not established by teaching or learning. Your worth is established by God. As long as you dispute this, everything you do will be fearful, particularly any situation that lends itself to the belief in superiority and inferiority. Teachers must be patient and repeat their lessons until they are learned. I am willing to do this because I have no right to set your learning limits for you. Again, nothing you do or think or wish or make is necessary to establish your worth. This point is not debatable except in delusions. Your ego is never at stake because God did not create it. Your spirit is never at stake because he did. Any confusion on this point is delusional, and no form of devotion is possible as long as this delusion lasts.
Gives me a whole new reason to call people delusional.
I like that last line where it says, again, nothing you do or think or wish or make
Sorry,
or
I thought
make
you meant
is
next.
necessary to establish your worth.
Yeah.
So it's
And
like
how much work?
nothing.
Nothing. How much work, Gary, is required in the coaching arena that deals with self-worth?
Oh, like almost all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is it? Well, I know why, but I mean, when you really think about it, most people are eaten up by their own lack of follow through, lack of resiliency, lack of the ability to actually keep their word to something, and then they feel self-flagellate. I can't even say the word self. When you,
Beat
that's not a
yourself up.
word.
Beat yourself up.
That's it. But I wanted to use a fancier word.
Is it flagellation or
And I
something?
failed. Say again?
Flagellation. Flagellation.
Flagellation. Yeah, I wanted to put a B in there for some reason. Yeah, flagellation when they, are just whipping themselves for like no bloody reason other than they feel like they have taken the attacks from people outside of them that have judged them and just beat them and beat them and beat them with them until they believe it about themselves. I'm probably talking about this because I have a client tomorrow that has done exactly that. And he just is like hanging on a cross by a thread. But it's so true. Nothing that we can do is going to change our worth.
A lot of this, I think, has to do with, well, it is the ego, and it's the ego saying you're not worth it. But, when you look from the higher source, we're all worth it. It's that perspective I think we need to tap into more, to just say it doesn't matter how it turns out. I'm a worthy human being, and I have my reason to be here.
Yeah.
I'm important.
Who's going next? I'm voting for Linda.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. The yoga. I'm just eating some yogurt, so it was on my mind, and I just spilt some as well. The ego tries to exploit all situations into forms of praise for itself in order to overcome its doubts. It will remain doubtful as long as you believe in its existence. You who made it cannot trust it because in your right mind you realize it is not real. The only sane solution is not to try to change reality, which is indeed a fearful attempt, but to accept it as it is. You are part of reality which stands unchanged beyond the reach of your ego, but within easy reach of spirit. When you are afraid, be still and know that God is real and you are his beloved son/daughter, in whom he is well pleased. Do not let your ego dispute this, because the ego cannot know what is as far beyond its reach as you are. It's kind of like what we were talking about before, wasn't it? To give it up. Just give it up. Be still and know that God is real.
I love that line. You are part of reality which stands unchanged beyond the reach of your ego, but within easy reach of spirit.
Yeah.
Anything else on that one?
I'm pretty good with that one. These are they're not as convoluted.
No.
I think as well, because we've read so much together, it's making more sense to us, but I'd be interested to hear from the people who watch the YouTube clips, but don't feel pulled to come to the meetings, or time's wrong for them or whatever. Be interested to see whether they find the same or if it's a bit challenging because of not reading this far with us.
Yeah, I do not know. How many people do watch on YouTube? Do we have 3 or 4?
It varies. Well, it's more like at least probably a dozen a time, and sometimes it's up to 50, sometimes it's up to 100. So yeah, it varies.
Up to 100? Really?
Yeah, some of them. I don't
Listening
know
to
why.
us prattle about?
I know.
Yeah, well, we're just doing our best here.
Yeah.
Who goes next, gang?
Either Joe or me. What do you want, Joe?
Paper, scissors.
Alrighty.
No, it don't matter. I can jump in. Gary, this is going to be my line.
Okay.
God is not the author of fear. You
Well,
are.
I've already got my line, Joe, so you can't steal
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm going to go back and look for it.
it.
So God is not the author of fear. You are. You have chosen to create unlike him and have therefore made fear for yourself. You are not at peace because you are not fulfilling your function. God gave you a very lofty function that you are not meeting. Your ego has chosen to be afraid instead of meeting it. When you awaken, you will not be able to understand this because it is literally incredible. Do not believe the incredible now. Any attempt to increase its believableness will yeah, we'll go with that, is merely to postpone the inevitable. The word inevitable is fearful to the ego, but joyous to the spirit. God is inevitable, and you cannot avoid him any more than he can avoid you.
So when it says, when you awaken, you will not be able to understand this because it is literally incredible. Is the awaken when you pass back to spirit? Or
I think it could be when you're in the body as well. I believe that we can awaken while still asleep. And, you know, asleep here, believing that we're the physical form, but we have moments where we can see that atonement and that oneness, and flashes of that atonement, I think, happen. And I think it's super. I love that one phrase. The inevitable is fearful to the ego, but joyous to the spirit. God is inevitable, and you cannot avoid him any more than he can avoid you, because you're one and the same, according to the atonement. So it's almost like, you know, when the body falls down and we die, you know, our ego, of course, is not the body. Our ego is more the mind, and all the things we've experienced and concluded about it are about all of our experiences. But the truth of it is, we finally get a glimpse of that oneness, I think. And once I think we taste that, it's really hard to go back to being separate and feeling separate and believing you're separate.
Reading this paragraph felt like what is that? Your monthly review at work or your quarterly review at work. I mean, just the line, God gave you a very lofty function that you are not meeting. That kind of makes you want to think back and reflect, well, what am I not doing?
Well, if we were to answer that, what do you think our function is? What do you think our lofty function is? So, V, what do you think yours is?
To become like God, and that changes all the time. That's especially with reading this, because, you know, God has supposedly created us in his own vision. So therefore, whatever we perceive is what we think God is. It's just a bit of a round and circle thing. But I was kind of just imagining as Joe was reading that about how all the things that go on this world, and all the pain and suffering there is, and for God to be able to sit there and just love everyone and pass no judgment. I think that's what the goal is, to see everything that's going on and give nothing but love with no judgment.
that's really nice, B. Really like that.
Well, that is the ultimate goal. I mean, there's a part of me that is such an activist that I have, like, my ego's got conflict like that. No, you know, we have to do something, you know. And I've marched on Washington several times for lots of different, you know, injustices to our rights. And, you know, nothing changed, except for I spent a lot of money to go to Washington, D.C. and hang out with, you know, a couple million people, but nothing really ever evolved from that. And I come from the generation where, you know, we're smoking a lot of dope and taking a lot of LSD, and we really thought that the Beatles came with their Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band, and we thought this is the transcendental moment where the world is going to evolve in consciousness. And there were a lot of people meditating in those days, and nothing changed. I think individually people changed, but societal did not change. And so at this moment, in hindsight, I look at it and I think, it's always the 100th monkey theory. If we focus not on changing globally or even societally, but we focus on changing ourselves, then I think in mass, then society begins to shift. But if our focus is to change society, nothing ever changes. If our focus is to change ourselves collectively, I think that there can be a shift. So I'm all up for looking at the horrors of the world and sitting back and going, I'm going to choose to see oneness. I'm going to choose to be as kind as I can be. I'm going to choose to continue the work that I do the trainings I do and the coaching that I do, and continue to try to reach as many people so that they minimize the suffering that they're going through, and stop judging, stop worrying, stop looking to the future and seeing forebodingness. That's not even a word, but seeing things in a dark light, when I can be in a state of peace, thinking that every single step forward is a step back towards that ocean or that divine consciousness, which I think all of us ultimately, if we can walk this journey filled with lots of thorny bushes and cut glass on the path and still walk the path with the faith in our heart that we are returning home, then I think we start to make progress. I do think if we don't judge, therefore we have no condemnation in our hearts. If we have no condemnation, then we don't have fear because we're not attacking anything. If we're judging, condemning, and attacking, we have to have fear, because then we will feel the same response back to us, that we will be judged, condemned, and attacked as well. So it all kind of boils down to stay in the atonement without the judgment and without the attack. So we do not fear attack. Therefore, we don't harden our hearts, and we don't live in a place that is thought possessed by something other than the oneness of God. I think if we can do that, we come good. I personally believe this is all the Course is saying, page after page, paragraph after paragraph. Stay in the atonement, stop judging, get into the river. The river's got a destination, flow down the destination, and celebrate with whoever else is with you in the river. And if we can do that, I think we all come good.
Judging is such an easy thing to do, though, isn't it?
Oh, it's constant. I know.
And you're constantly fighting with yourself over knowing that you've just judged, knowing that you don't want to judge, and trying to make that all fit together so that you aren't judging. It's really hard, really hard. And I'd like to say that I've been practicing it for years, but I've been aware of it for years and still have that battle going on. I was doing a lot of judging at that documentary thing last night, because there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of political correctness spoken, but I kept thinking, but you all go home to your homes at night. You all go home to your homes. So it's interesting.
The one thing that I think is so important, that I don't think it's mentioned in the Course, at least I haven't come across it yet, is that if we don't shift our language, we don't shift our thinking. If we can't catch ourselves in the act of judgment and say, cancel, clear, what I prefer to be thinking is this, what I prefer to be believing is this, and you speak, because your words are creative, and you speak towards the atonement. No, I claim my oneness with God right now. And everything I'm seeing, all the separation, all the mental masturbation that I'm doing around this or that, or wondering this or fearing that, it's all a dream. I choose the atonement instead. And then you choose to start seeing the light of God in every single person you're judging, evaluating, condemning, or fearing. that then becomes a different kettle of fish. I really do believe it is an action that we have to do, because I can't catch myself judging. By the time I've our thoughts are lightning fast. So but if we can catch it and then catch it with language, you're going to cancel clear. My preferred thought is this. Or if we catch ourselves, just really stop ourselves and go, what I prefer to be saying right now is this, that I am choosing the atonement. I'm choosing oneness with these individuals who are the same spark of the divine as I am. Then we start to turn it around emotionally. Because if we can't turn it around emotionally, we'll never change. We do everything for the feeling. So we have to be able to use our language and the focus of our minds, which I think is our worship, and turn the language around and focus the mind, not on the judgment. Even if we've judged for 3 hours, just go, okay, cancel clear all of that. This is the truth for me. This is what I choose. And then we can start turning around. The more we do that, the more it turns into a habit, because we're forming new neurological pathways through habit. If we can't form that, we never change. So we got to catch ourselves. And that's kind of what my thing has been for the last, well, since we saw each other for the last week. I've had a lot of things that I could be judging, and I'm just like, nope, not going to do it. And just choosing to see more the atonement rather than the fear thoughts. And I'm more peaceful. I'll definitely say that.
If you need something to create a mental picture for you, Linda, just imagine every time you judge somebody, label somebody or whatever, you are locking them in like an energetic cage, not allowing them the ability to do different, because you have placed that judgment upon them. It's kind of helped me with the releasing of judgment, which granted, I still do, not as often or as horrible as I used to, but it does come up here and there. But when I think about it as, if I'm going to place this judgment on that person, I'm essentially locking them into whatever that judgment is, not allowing them to create a change or create a new, or to become better or different. I mean, like the question Gary asked, God gave you a very lofty function that you are not meeting, and asked, what does that mean to us? Well, V answered it beautifully. And while she was answering it, what I wrote down was evolution into enlightenment. And we all have that ability to do such, but words are vibrations and they do flow. And if we're literally locking people into this energetic cage, we're stunting their growth. We're not allowing them to learn, to evolve, to become something better.
I feel awful now.
No, why should you, Linda? That's like,
And
no,
that-
we're all just a reflection of one another. But
But that's bizarre, Linda, because I was just thinking about there is another step to that, because yes, we go off and judge other people, but then we beat ourselves up for judging other people.
Yeah, I know.
So we have to actually forgive ourselves and go, it's okay,
Mm, yeah.
and it's okay. I'm still learning.
I appreciate what you said, Joe, and it's a good visual to have for sure.
Because you don't want to put your people in a jail or in a cage. So for me personally, it in a sense helped me to slow down that so easy to throw a judgment or a label onto someone or something.
Here's the real bugaboo about it, is that our subconscious mind takes our language literally and personally. So when we're actually condemning another, because I found this out, like, I can't even tell you how many times. When I'm condemning someone else, that thought, that vibrational emotion doesn't leave me and go glue onto them. My subconscious mind takes it literally like I'm speaking about myself. And somewhere it says, all condemnation is self-condemnation, meaning that my condemnation doesn't leave me. It stays with me. So I just think that, we're kind of here to walk the planet without fear or condemnation or judgment. We're here, I think, to be the angels we originally came in to be. But we got wrapped in all kinds of cloths of our ancestral past, our parents' belief system, their thought forms, their actions. And we modeled them, and then we got stuck like a fly in a spider web to all this stuff. And then it's in our DNA as well, all the ancestral, transgenerational stuff. So we're here to unravel all of that. And I think it can be done relatively easily by just simply this very simple formula that the Course gives us. Reach for the atonement and keep your ego in check, and know that God is inevitable. And I love this last line: you cannot avoid him any more than he can avoid you. We are destined. It's like we're going to our wedding day, and however you want to view God in a male or female way, or just we're going to go meet our beloved. And no matter what, that is our destiny. And either we show up scraped up with mud caked all over us from our judgments and our falling down, or we show up clean and pristine, and it doesn't really matter either way. We're loved the same.
Hello, Jane. After all
Hi,
that,
Jane.
You came in on a roll, Jane. Jane, you want to take the next line? Number 10?
You've muted yourself. Hold on, you're still muted, Jane. There we go.
There they are.
Are we on 9 or 10?
10.
10.
Okay. The ego is afraid of the spirit's joy, because once you have experienced it, you will withdraw all protection from the ego and become totally without investment in fear. Your investment is great now because fear is a witness to the separation. And when your ego rejoices, and your ego rejoices when you witness to it. Leave it behind. Do not listen to it, and do not preserve it. Listen only to God, who is as incapable of deception as is the spirit he created. Release yourself and release others. Do not present a false and unworthy picture of yourself to others, and do not accept such a picture of them yourself. Wow.
That's
Just talking
beautiful.
about that.
Mm,
Wow.
that's beautiful.
I'm reminded of the song, the Joni Mitchell Woodstock song, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden.
Yes. One of my faves.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, that was a great last lesson to end with, I think.
Are we at the end already? Oh my God.
We are.
Hours gone
We only have like 3 more minutes, according to my clock.
by.
Oh no, it looks like this is 7:52. Looks like we got time for one more.
All right. I'll read that one then. I was about to say, I was typing next week we start on 11. Okay, 11. The ego has built a shabby and unsheltering home for you because it cannot build otherwise. Do not try to make this impoverished house stand. Its weakness is your strength. Only God could make a home that is worthy of his creations, who have chosen to leave it empty by their own dispossession. Yet his home will stand forever and is ready for you when you choose to enter it. Of this you can be wholly certain. God is as incapable of creating the perishables as the ego is of making the eternal. So it's all temporary.
Oh yeah. Oftentimes I kind of look at that and I think, as it applies to my own life, if everything was to kind of like blow up and everything goes south, meaning that I lost my home, I lost my ability to work, I lost my cars, I lost all of that. Just say all of it just blew up. I think, you know, how much of that, the emotions I would feel, and then whether I would be able to get to the other side of it quickly. I actually think I would be able to, because I've done it once before. And then everything turned around for the better, but well, whatever the better is, it turned around in a different direction. But I remember that I think if we look at only God can make a home that is worthy of his creations, and you have chosen to leave it empty by your own dispossession, yet his home will stand forever. I think that is, for me anyway, super comforting to know that there is always and forevermore this state of being that has nothing to do with possessions, your ego, what you've made, what you haven't made, what you've done, what you haven't done. It just has to do with your intrinsic worth. I love that idea.
That's a
Now the
great word
trick
to
is,
use, dispossession.
yeah, yeah. The trick is to not just believe it, but to live it.
What I'm reminded of with what's been going on in Israel, I found myself in watching just a few videos or interviews with people in Israel. I kind of imagined myself there in the last week and imagined what it's like to have it all blow up and to be on the run. And I really kind of took that on and said, imagine what that's like. You're literally running down the road. You have nothing. But do you have nothing? Is the question. And you do. I do. And so even the most hideous, heinous of acts of violence like war can affect little old me in New York State.
Yeah.
And make me have empathy for others, but also to say, there but for the grace of God go I. And this just brings it on home what we're reading about. And I'm sorry, I got very screwed up in the time tonight. I apologize, but this little bit of time I've had has been tremendous. So thank you.
You're welcome, Jane. As always. You guys want to
Jane,
do our
yeah,
word?
Jane, I'm just going to remind everyone as well that this is all recorded, so it's all on YouTube as well, so you can have a look. Because what we actually mentioned before is very much about what you've just said as well.
Thank you, V.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yes, words. I've got mine.
Go for it, V.
I relinquish control, surrender the guardianship of my thought system, and accept oneness.
Nice. Lady Linda?
Okay, well, you almost stole it, V, but not quite. So I'm just going to go with I am the guardian of my thought system.
Joey?
God is not the author of fear. You are.
Jane?
You're muted again.
So is shabby, but I'm a shining star.
And mine is be still and know that God is real. Okay, gang. Thank you guys for coming. I just am so appreciative, tell you the truth. And V, none of this would happen except for you, darling, you know, and I think that this is it helps me so much to connect with you guys on Tuesday nights. It really does. It helps me throughout the week and keeps me on my toes, because I just really dislike going to sleep and staying there for long periods of time. It's just really annoying. So I want to just thank you all for being part and parcel of us all being able to support each other, to wake each other up a bit more. So if anyone's on YouTube listening to this, we also appreciate you. And although we don't know you or don't see you, but if you want to join us, you can. And we'll continue to do this just so that we can keep the light burning. And Lady Linda, you just continue to be the courageous, gorgeous thing you are. And
Thank you.
and go to those gyms. You'll find what you need
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You will.
Exactly.
It'll
I
be
will.
good for you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
darling. Okay. Jane, lovely to see you, darling. Joey,
Great to be here.
have a wonderful one, my friend. And V, God bless you. And
Thank
I'll see you
you.
guys next Tuesday. Okay?
Everybody.
Have a great
Okay,
week.
Shabbat.
Bye.